Did you lose money? Did you have to wear only LuLaRoe to LuLaRoe events? If I had seen the inventory that was being stored outside of the warehouse. Hey guys, welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you're returning. If you are new to this channel or you just haven't seen my previous videos before, I was a LuLaRoe consultant from 2015 to 2017, about 2 years total, and I've made a number of videos about my experience in that situation, from like a day in my life to my experience going to convention in 2016 to looking through some of the materials that I was given as a newly onboarded consultant, and looking into finances and some other things. So I've gotten a lot of questions throughout that time about, you know, different aspects of my experience, and I have made full videos about some of them, but I also just put out recently to everybody what are some other questions that you had about my experience in LuLaRoe. So I'm answering some of those questions today, as well as a couple other questions that came up in the comments to some of my other videos that I responded to there, but I thought maybe everyone would like to see them. So I have them all written out on my phone, and I'm just going to, I kind of put them in some sort of order so they kind of make sense, but I'm just going to go through and answer these questions. So they're not really on any specific topic. It is just your questions that you had for me about my experience as a LuLaRoe consultant. So the first question is, did you have to wear only LuLaRoe to LuLaRoe events? And so actually this doesn't apply just to LuLaRoe events, but actually in your whole life as a LuLaRoe consultant, there was kind of a phrase that they used, LuLaRoe head to toe, meaning you should be wearing a full outfit of LuLaRoe. That came about maybe like a year or so into my time with them, because actually before that, well, first of all, they didn't always carry every type of clothing. Like at this point, you know, they're launching different styles every week, it feels like, and they have everything from, you know, tops to bottoms, long sleeve, pants, jeans, skirts, dresses, pajamas, I think. So there's really, you know, you could have a full wardrobe of only LuLaRoe. At the time that I was selling it, there were, you know, a couple skirt styles, a couple dress styles. They had like just released some additional types of tops. They had a couple types of like kimono things, but it wasn't really enough to have a full wardrobe of like pants and shirts and pajamas and things to keep you warm. It wasn't really all of that. So at the time that I was selling, I feel like you couldn't always wear LuLaRoe head to toe 365 days a year in every climate. Also, at the time that I joined, something that they sort of were promoting was like helping your customers see how they can work LuLaRoe into their existing wardrobes by, you know, styling and demonstrating how it pairs with other things you already have. So, I mean, a lot of people wore their LuLaRoe with jeans to show that you could, to show, you know, potential customers like, look, you don't need to buy a whole new wardrobe of all LuLaRoe, just start incorporating it into what you have. And I think that's kind of like a more reasonable way to do it. I mean, obviously any business, I'm sure, would love for people to throw out everything they have and restock with all of, you know, their brand's products. But realistically, I think that kind of makes sense as a way to draw customers in. Like, look, you can use it with the stuff you already have. So, anyway, to answer the original question, at LuLaRoe events, yeah, it was kind of expected that you would wear head to toe LuLaRoe, or as much as you could squeeze in. And at an event like that, it was sort of like a time to show off. You know, maybe you had a very rare piece, or, you know, something that a lot of people wanted. When I was at the convention in 2016, right around that time, this dress had come out that was a print, it was like black and white stripes, but with flowers kind of like underneath and on top of the stripes. Sort of like the stripes were like among the flowers three-dimensionally. Anyway, everyone wanted that dress. All the consultants apparently had kept them for themselves and wore them to conventions. So like one day we took a group picture and probably half the girls there were wearing that dress. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. So the next question is, are there any LuLaRoe pieces that you have kept, or do you still wear LuLaRoe clothes? So the answer is I think at this point I do still have a couple items in my closet, but really by now I have sold or donated pretty much everything that I had for my personal use. Like if I have anything still that's in my closet, it might be a pair of black leggings and maybe like a couple pairs of solid colored leggings, but definitely the last of my patterned leggings I actually have listed on Poshmark right now, so go look me up on Poshmark. I was hanging on to like one last dress. It was just like a solid black dress that didn't seem too bad, but that's up on Poshmark right now, and pretty much anything else that I had kept for myself at this point has been sold or otherwise gotten rid of. So somebody asked, I think in response to my video about the 2016 convention, if I had seen the inventory that was being stored outside of the warehouse. So if you weren't aware, this is kind of a big issue in LuLaRoe history. They had run out of room in their existing warehouse and were actually storing like pallets of clothes outdoors, which led to them becoming sun damaged, wet, moldy. I think like some bugs or rodents might have gotten in there, so people were getting some horrible pieces. Now, in 2016, when I was at that convention, I went on a tour of the home office that included the warehouse. We didn't go behind the warehouse in the area where that was happening, so, you know, we went like, we were in the office first. We started out in like their corporate office, and then from there was a way inside the building to connect to the warehouse. So we weren't on like the warehouse floor. We were kind of on like a walkway above, and you could look down, like there was like a window and a walkway. So we weren't actually like inside the warehouse, and I think all of that stuff was happening then behind the warehouse, like in the area where the, you know, trucks would pull up to unload things. So I didn't personally see any of that. However, it must have been there because that was the convention where the Carly dress was released, and if I recall correctly, the Carly was one of the first styles of clothing where people started commenting that their items were arriving wet. And at the time, I think they said, oh, it's like from the inks or like the dyes that were used for the fabric, they were wet from that, because people said they were wet and they had like a weird smell to them, and they were saying like, you know, oh, leave them outside to dry and, you know, let the smell dissipate. So I didn't personally see that, but I think it must have been happening at that time, because the items that were released during that event were some of the ones that were coming out wet. So someone asked me, is it true that LuLaRoe got in trouble for stealing clip art? And yeah, it is true. There actually was a Facebook group or page or maybe a website, I believe called Derivative LuLaRoe, and people like cataloged all the times that this happened. But yeah, what I think the situation was that their art department was tasked with creating a certain number of new designs every day, because one of the things that LuLaRoe prided themselves on was having, you know, many different prints and patterns with just a limited number of pieces, you know, produced in each pattern. So in order to be able to keep up with that demand, they had to keep coming out with new patterns and designs constantly. So, you know, we've heard stories from people who worked there and worked in that art department, and like the pressure they were under, and, you know, yeah, you can take a break, but are you gonna get all your artwork done and that sort of thing. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it was that uncommon for somebody to maybe take an existing design or, you know, a piece of art that an artist made and maybe just like change a color or like change one little thing, and now that's their design for the day. I know there were a couple kind of famous ones. One was sort of like a Moroccan tile pattern in like watercolor kind of colors, and it actually had the watermark of the artist's name, you know, had been in her original design that they downloaded from the internet and ended up printing into leggings. So, and people were like, what is this name in here? And so that's how the artist found out about that one. But I think, you know, a lot of times people do find these and reach out to the original artist, and unfortunately, and this isn't just LuLaRoe, a lot of brands end up doing this. You know, they'll steal a design from a small artist, and it's kind of like a small artist can't really fight against, you know, a big company or a big fashion designer. So, you know, maybe there's some kind of settlement, but, you know, really they're not getting paid necessarily. They're certainly not like winning big lawsuits over this. And really a lot of these come from websites where, like, if you pay for it, you can use the whatever you downloaded, like, for whatever you want. If they had just paid that little bit up front, they wouldn't have been in this situation, you know? But yeah, I think the artists at LuLaRoe were under a lot of pressure, and I don't think it was that uncommon for them to use or reuse an existing design. So the next question is, did you lose money? And I've done a few videos now about financial aspects of this specifically. So I will say, first of all, I feel like I am an outlier. I know that this company has been very negative for many people. I am just sharing my personal experience, and I was super lucky in my timing and just the way that I conducted business, I guess. But I joined, I always say this, but kind of like right at the bottom of the curve before it really swung way up and like took off and went crazy. So I kind of got in at a good point where then I was able to like establish and actually have like customers for a little while. Also, I am sort of naturally stingy and frugal, so I didn't really go overboard with like a lot. Well, first of all, I didn't buy like a ton of inventory up front or even as I went along. I didn't put every penny that I made back into buying more inventory, and I didn't buy a lot of other like fun stuff, decor things or giveaway items or different things like that. I had like a very bare bones setup as far as like the minimum number of racks that I needed. What else did I even have? I guess hangers and you know, like some signage and little things, but I really didn't, like some people, you know, converted whole rooms of their house or had a truck or a trailer or, you know, all different kinds of decor things that they would set up for their events, and I really didn't do any of that. So I kind of, you know, I was stingy in that way and lucked out that way. And then the last lucky thing, I guess, is that at the time when I left the company was when they were still doing 100% buyback, and, you know, kind of not no questions asked, but, you know, like I think I did a good job of sending my items back in a very organized way, and so it was very like frictionless doing my return of my leftover inventory. So I was able to get a full refund on everything I sent back to them. Shortly after you know, I had fully left the company, they sort of rescinded their buyback offer. They started getting really strict or just like more picky about like what they would accept back. And basically, like, I think if you were in LuLaRoe now and you were leaving the company, I would not try to send back my inventory, because they're just going to take your clothes, tell you they can't give you a refund for whatever reason, and then you don't have your clothes or your money. So if you're leaving the company now, I would just try to sell off your clothes for whatever you can get for them. But like I said, I was just super lucky in the fact that when I decided to leave, they started offering that and were still offering it at the time that I was able to take advantage of that program. So long story short, no, I did not lose money. I didn't make a ton of money, and certainly not worth the amount of time and effort that I put into it, which is why I left. And the last question for today is, did I ever have any trouble with the IRS or with taxes? So knock on wood, I have not. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying that the IRS is coming back, or LuLaRoe somehow is coming back with issues related to the 2017 tax year, which that was the last year that I would have filed, you know, as a LuLaRoe consultant. So I haven't had any issues or heard anything, but I think again, there's a couple things that I kind of lucked out. So usually I do my own taxes with online tax preparation software. I did one year, and I think it might have been 2016's taxes, but one year we did use an accountant because my husband also had like a little bit complicated tax situation that year, and we figured we'll just pay a professional. But usually I just did it myself. And really, I just kept really good records of everything. So all the inventory that I ordered, every piece that I had, I took inventory at the end of the month every month. So there were actually times, you know, LuLaRoe would provide like an end of the year report that you were supposed to be able to use for taxes of like everything you had ordered from them and, you know, how much you spent or whatever. I had my own records, and that's what I used, because actually a lot of times my numbers did not match LuLaRoe's numbers. So I think if anything did happen and somehow I was audited or questioned, I have all of my records that I could prove, you know, what I had and what I reported. So, I mean, I don't know how that would stand up against LuLaRoe's records, but there were times where, you know, I had a report from them and it did not match my actual report, and I knew mine was right, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna go with my version. But again, I think if you're a consultant or you're like looking to do your final round of LuLaRoe taxes or whatever, it's just really important to keep an inventory of every single item that you have, keep track of every single item that you purchase, keep track also of what you actually receive, because I assume it's still like this now, but like we didn't get what we ordered half the time. There'd be extra stuff thrown in, or, you know, we wouldn't have gotten the thing that we ordered and then you get a credit or whatever. So make sure, just be like super diligent about record keeping, because I think that's really, again, what kind of saved me as far as, you know, doing my taxes, being able to return my items for a refund, just being like successful in general and having an idea of what was going on as I was running the business. Just like I'm kind of naturally stingy, I'm also naturally a record keeper. So I think that was really important part of my experience. So I hope you found all that interesting. Like I said, these were questions that came from you guys, whether in response to my posts on YouTube or Instagram, or in the comments of some of my previous videos. So hopefully these were things that everyone was interested in. If you did like this, please give it a thumbs up so I know to keep making these videos in my LuLaRoe series. As I mentioned, it is a kind of a series, so I have some other videos about my experience with LuLaRoe if you want to check them out. And if there's anything else you'd like to hear about, please leave me a comment and I will consider it for a future video. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!